Hey guys, DFW's Cars here. How's it going? I'm here today with the 2017 Mitsubishi Outlander. Some of you may be thinking, Mitsubishi, don't they make TVs and stuff like that? That joke is probably too old for a lot of people who watch my channel. I remember Mitsubishis for cars like the Eclipse, and most famously the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo, as some people call them, short for Evolution. So this car has, with me, some high standards to live up to. So let's see how it is as a Mitsubishi and the SUV. This one's a 7-seater, which puts it in a rather unique class we'll talk about in a little bit. Big thing my channel focuses on, always has been, and what I think makes me a little different, a lot of people quote statistics about cargo space. You know, I just tell you, it has enough. It has good cargo space. Is the way it drives, and that's something you can't often tell in a test drive. And maybe you haven't even gotten to the point where you drive a car you're interested in yet. Looking car up front, all this black plastic on the white is not the best looking thing, but it's got LED running lights, got a nice amount of chrome up there. It looks modern, it looks fresh. It also has LED headlights on this model, which is pretty cool and pretty nice. Metal roof rails up there. So let's take a walk around and see. I do like the fairly large rims on the side here. This is, as I mentioned earlier, a 7-passenger SUV, so I'll show you that when we do the internal review. It kind of looks a lot smaller than a lot of other 7-passengers. I think of it kind of like the Ford Explorer. Is probably, in a weird way, maybe its most direct competition, because it's like a large midsize. I wouldn't quite call this a full-size SUV, at least not to drive. So I like the back here. It's very clean, it's very crisp. Basic LEDs, got that nice chrome strip back there. Nothing like amazing, but it's also, a good looking SUV. Let's check out that exhaust, shall we? Check out that engine, shall we? So this is the smaller engine they offer. It's also the front-wheel drive CVT version, which we'll talk about in the drive review. They do make it in all-wheel drive and with a larger motor. It's a good little engine. Mitsubishi's actually kind of known their engines. They made engines for like Chrysler products in the past and for a few other companies. And they were good, reliable, steady engines. It is a nice looking SUV inside, starting on the door here. There's some wood type trim up on the top there. That black plastic down there I'm not a huge fan of, but overall the other materials are very, very nice, like the stitching over there. So that's a little thing, it's not huge. The wheel is extremely nice. It almost has what's like a wood look and feel down on the bottom half there, and this wheel is also heated from there down on this model, so that's nice. So good steering wheel, good controls. Smart cruise control, a lot of driver's tech features which we'll talk about, nice looking gauges, awesome stereo, which I'll talk about a little bit. I mean, I don't know how much you can tell from a video how good it is. One thing I like, it doesn't have a center fill speaker. No, it doesn't. But it has a couple of different surround sound options, including something called Dia Wide. I'm probably saying that wrong. DTS Neural, which is something you'd find in your home theater. The I drove had that. Not a whole lot of cars do. It makes it sound like there's a center channel speaker, and it gives you some surround. So love that. You can even adjust the sound stage on the car. That's pretty cool. So that's why I just leave it in the Neural. Just one second. There are a couple of things you've probably already caught. Like these buttons kind of look dated and rather big, and then these buttons down here. So, and there's other little things like that too, from when this car used to have an ignition, or I guess maybe they make a model without a keyless start. So there's that down there, and then there's another variant of that. I believe this is for the all-wheel drive model, most likely. So little things like that aren't especially great, but then overall it is nice. Not everything in this class is kind of the finished dash up here. Very nice, look and feel to the interior bit. I wanted to point out, it kind of looks fun and young and hip and cool the way in this plastic, you know, that runs all along down here, they just put this, I'd call it a star effect, for lack of a better word. It goes well with like the image of the car overall. As you can see though, that it does pick up fingerprints and stuff like that pretty easily. Chrome strip around here, chrome around the dials. So as nice as most other things in this class, there are just little things they could improve. The wood is actually really pretty, in that lighting it's looking quite nice. And then, you know, nice large cup holders down in the doors there. So functionality wise, a great SUV. Very nice seats as well. Extremely nice on this car. Very comfortable. Not a lot of bolstering, especially on the bottom there, but there is some on the side. Again, it's a fairly large SUV, so it's probably not a huge requirement. But with the rear seat folded down as it is, when you try to get in the console, you can't. Not a huge deal, but it is just something I wanted to point out. Back here, it is very nice, very, very spacious. Like, I can go back and forth, which you'd kind of expect for a mid-size SUV. Kind of a fuller mid-size SUV. Cushioning here so you can rest your arms. The seats back there, let me just show you. One thing, getting into the seats back here is rather difficult because I haven't figured out a way other than just folding this seat down to get back here. I don't see that it slides. I could be wrong on that, and I will, you know, correct that. I hope it's kids sitting back here, because I am sitting on this giant subwoofer when I'm on this side. So, like, you know, my head is fairly high and I'm just under 6 feet, so these two seats back here, maybe for a short trip, best for kids, which is what probably people are going to use those 2 extra seats for anyway. But it's nice because, again, sometimes you have to go with a really, really, really huge SUV just to get those seats, which you might someday need, you know, for your kids' friends and stuff like that. So let me show you the storage with these seats up and then down, so you can kind of compare, because it is an SUV. One nice thing it does have is a power lift gate, which a lot of SUVs now do have, but not all of them, and especially not all in this price point, as we'll talk about in a little bit. So yeah, with those seats up, I mean, it's very minimal. You could pretty much fit your groceries back here. There are these little cubby holes here and a little one over there, which are kind of nice. But yeah, let's fold those seats down. And let's see, down, you know, there you actually have a pretty decent amount, even if these seats were up. And then with them down, it's actually, you know, a lot of storage space. So they make a sport edition of this, kind of like Range Rover, how they have the full-size Range Rover and then the Range Rover Sport, which is smaller. I don't think I'd get the Sport. It's not that much cheaper, and you lose a little bit of utility. Like this SUV, one thing I'll give it, it never does feel big or bulky or, you know, anything like that. It just feels pretty nice. So let's take it for a drive. All right, so let's go for that drive. You know, very quiet and good noise and vehicle harshness from the engine, everything like that. There's a certain thrashiness from the CVT, but it's less than you might expect. It's a little noisy for, you know, big SUV. So that's one area Mitsubishi could improve it. Like high city speeds and a little bit on the highway, it's noisier than some of its other Japanese competitors. So that's one area of improvement. One cool thing is the feature set. For such a small company, some of those things on the trim I was telling you about is why, you know, it's a small, very lean company, smaller than Mazda even. In that way, you know, I don't fault them for things like that, because they're just little things. My channel focuses on, always has been, and what I think makes me a little different, a lot of people quote statistics about cargo space. It has enough. It has good cargo space. Is the way it drives, and that's something you can't often tell in a test drive. Maybe you haven't even gotten to the point where you drive a car you're interested in yet. Good engine, so good actually, in sport mode here, I wish it actually did have all-wheel drive, because with the front-wheel drive, no matter how good a front-wheel drive system is, even if they've eliminated torque steer, which there's a bit of here, taking a corner, and if you have to accelerate in that corner, like if you're turning at a light that's about to change red, You might have to accelerate to get through. Most of them will break the front wheels free, which is not great because then you'll have to kind of compensate for that. You'll have to let the stability control slow you down, things like that just aren't particularly reassuring, I guess would be the right word. CVT in here is not bad. The larger engine does have an automatic, which would be better, but this SUV, let's talk about some pros first before I talk about the few driving cons it does have. 27 combined, 2530, with the front wheel drive and that smaller engine. And then the price, a $4,000 option package that mostly includes safety stuff and a round view camera, blind spot monitoring, things like that. It comes out to be that 30 with destination. So if you decide not to get that package, 25 grand for a 7-seater SUV that's nicely finished, nicely loaded, good reliability. Ability-wise, Mitsubishi gives you a 5-year, 60,000-mile new vehicle warranty. That's pretty awesome. Beats most others 3-year, 36. Then a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. The gas mileage, it is a Mitsubishi, so much like Hyundai and a few other companies, it does live up to those standards, so Mitsubishi's done a great job there. I've met both of those numbers. Actually, even though I drive a little bit more spirited, I pulled it back when I was monitoring that, but good job there, Mitsubishi. Now, let's talk about how it drives. It drives well, great turning circle, very small for such a, on the larger end of the spectrum of SUVs. Great acceleration. The suspension is really, really quite good. A little bit it can get floaty when you're kind of on the highway and doing some turns there because it is high up, which since it's front wheel drive, this model didn't necessarily need to be as much, but it feels like for the most part you're driving a Mitsubishi sedan around, which is a good thing. It just feels kind of bigger. There are some faults, and a fairly large one. The electric steering on this car, there is no adjustment for it, and it just feels so artificial. Let me show you what I mean about this steering here. So I am moving it, as you can see from the seam there, and the car isn't moving. It's almost like using a joystick. Lest you thought I was being overly, I can move it this far and not get any steering motion. In a way, that's a really good analogy, the video game one, because you are using a joystick essentially. It just happens to look like a steering wheel. The amount you move your joystick doesn't correlate to the amount your car in the game is moving, but you're playing it in real life. So the amount you turn the steering wheel, not only is it the feedback, because that very few companies have managed to get. If you've never experienced it, lucky you. You probably will though. Most manufacturers are going to, I don't know if in the all-wheel drive or the bigger model version, if they tweaked that at all. I would really hope so. But before you buy it, sure you can, be okay with that steering. But yeah, the acceleration, great. So the CVT is, you may have heard a little bit of thrashiness there. Kick it into sport mode, that goes away, just like I said in the Civic review. So engine, transmission, suspension, really, really good. Suspension being the weakest link there. Now back to some pros. It is very comfortable and relaxed, and it has nice features. $4,000 in options. If those save you from one accident, it's worth it. So it's smart cruise control. It'll slow down if someone's in front of you that you don't see. It's blind spot monitoring, which has saved me a ton of times because in an SUV sometimes you won't see smaller cars. Do I enjoy driving it? Yeah, it's a very nice ride, but as soon as I have to do anything involving, steering more than gentle curve, that it's okay for. There's just no feel, no communication. It's hard to get an electric system right. If anyone would have done it in, this class, I would have thought it was Mitsubishi. So that's the would I buy this car with my own money test? I would want it with all-wheel drive, hands down. Even though I lose a little fuel economy, it's a couple of grand. Totally worth it. If you're gonna take it on wet weather, anything like that, That's a Focus RS over there. And it also improves the handling in a way because you're not sending all that power to the front wheels. Don't think I'd get the bigger engine. I don't think I'd want to give up the fuel economy. In the CVT, it's decent. It has a sport mode and then a low mode. This is kind of like an overdrive off kind of function, so for you going down a hill. Now let's talk about the competitors. It's kind of in a unique space because it's smaller than a lot of 7-passenger SUVs. I would say its most direct competitor in that way would be the Ford Explorer. If you're going more the Japanese way and you know, are a fan of Mitsubishi in general and things like that, this beats the Explorer. Or has, you know, you can get like a V8 in it. It's got the EcoBoost turbo engine, so the Explorer has some pros, but you're not going to be disappointed in this. Better value than the Explorer and every bit as livable. You come down to looks, brand preference, things like that. Between its other like kind of larger mid-size SUVs, the CX-5 is great if you only need the 5-passenger seating, smaller than their CX-9, which I also have a review I'll link to in the end. So if you want something smaller with 7 seats, it's this or the Explorer in this price point. Am I missing any competitors? Let me know in the comments and I'll let you know how it compares. I looked because if I ever have kids, I do want the 7-seat option. See you. Until next video, drive on.